Your journey has been an interesting one up to here. You've questioned so much more than those around you. You've even questioned yourself as to how you could have grown into these thoughts. Am I crazy? When did I begin to think differently? Why do people in general appear so limited in their thought process? Rest assured, you are not alone. The world is slowly waking up to what you already know inside, yet can't quite verbalize. Welcome to the Spiritual Dope Podcast, the show that answers the questions you never even knew to ask, but needed the answers to. Questions about you, this world, the people in it. Most importantly, how do I proceed now moving forward? We don't claim to have all the answers, but we sure do love living in the question. Time for another hit of Spiritual Dope with your host, Brandon Henley. Let's get right into today's episode.
Hey there, Spiritual Dope. I'm on here today with Dr. Gianna Tallon-Sullivan, who received her doctorate in pharmacy at the University of Southern California. She then proceeded into corporate pharmacy, where she practiced the executive leadership realm of healthcare organizations, nonprofit organizations, program development, marketing, and board of directors development. In 1989, she experienced a divine encounter which led her to leave her corporate career to fulfill a mission she'd been invited to develop. She founded a medical mobile health clinic called Mission of Mercy, whose mission is to restore dignity, healing through love. Mom is celebrating its 26th year of operation, is now a national charitable nonprofit organization that provides free medical, dental and prescriptions and ancillary services and up to 12 free surgeries a year to the underserved population. She is the author of several books titled I Am Your Jesus of Mercy, and is also the United States representative for the worldwide Armada Bianca Apostolate, which promotes the Fatima message to the children of the world. On top of this, she is also a happiness coach, and we'll dig into some of that. I am so happy to have you here with us today, Jana. How are you?
I'm great. Now that I'm on your show, Brandon, thank you for having me. Welcome to all your fans who are joining us today. It's quite an honor. And so I'm very privileged.
Fantastic. Now, me as well. I'm, kind of this privilege to even be able to have the platform and be able to hop on and share it out. So I like to start these off with the whole idea that you and I are vessels for source energy, right? Like, there's something out there that, or even within us, that we're connected to that, can only be expressed in like a certain way. And oftentimes when we're having this conversation, there's something coming through you today, Jana, that can only like be delivered through this platform to an end listener that's needs this message. What is that message today?
Well, if you had asked if we were to join maybe a few months ago or something, maybe it would have been different. But today, I would say, how could anyone see that there isn't a storm? If you know what I mean, arising. I mean, there's something near. I think we're all feeling it. We're all being restricted on various levels. And that there are many controls that are being placed on not only locally, but peoples of all countries. And so I'm just wondering who is behind this outrageous manipulation that's telling people, threatening people what they can or cannot do. And whoever it is behind liberal, political, medical, spiritual leaders. They're just mandating all these different types of restrictions. And a lot of people are frightened by that. A lot of them are angry by that. So it's just not the presidents. There's something bigger, something else is behind this. And, who's telling social media to go out there and these big giants who are spending millions of dollars to promote misinformation and even to get certain people elected. I mean, I guess, it's a storm that I see that's nearing, and who is behind this media, this mainstream media? And then I could even go into immigration. I could even talk to you about that. I mean, who's who's driving and profiting from the chaos and injustice right there, from all fonts of immigration, if you look at it. So you've got healthcare workers, you've got first responders, you've got teachers, you've got policies, even law enforcement, professionals. People are asked to resign, people are leaving. I don't know. I just sense that there's a storm arising.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, we're living in some really interesting times. I would not hesitate to say it. And I know that I've said it before. I feel like we're living in the midst of a revolution, right? I think that, and within revolution, there's also revolt, right? There's going to be most likely, and there already has been. I think that we're seeing some type of revolts. We're seeing revolts right now within the workforce, right? The Great Resignation. There's a revolt, and within revolution, we also need to think of that the cycle, right? Of whatever's happening right now, our past. We're really trying to disentangle from that and move forward. And I think to your point, there's a lot of puppet mastering going on to try and maintain the grasp by instilling fear, by saying, oh, you people over here, you got to stay here. You people over here, you've got to do this. You can't visit these people, mm-hmm. right? And here's like the top 5 places you can't visit, right? And really just kind of a tremendous fear tactic that's being media driven and all this other stuff. 100%. There is a storm forming, and I think that we're definitely in the midst of it. All that being said, Jana, I mean, you're a happiness coach. How do we find ourselves? Let's talk a little bit about your journey, right? Let's talk a little bit about your journey, and then at some point, let's lean into the idea that all this is going on. I'm hoping you say yes to this, but can we still find happiness in all these things that are going on?
So even in the midst of a storm, I mean, there's various ways to look at all of this, okay? We know for a fact that genetically we are composed and born with happiness. That's been proven scientifically. So if you looked at a pie, sure, 50% of our happiness is genetic. And then the other 40% are your habits, how you're brought up, what you've been exposed to, your neural pathological, cellular pathways. I mean, all of that can either be positive or negative. And then that's 90% right there. That 40% was, positive. That would be 90%. 50 and 40% happy would be 90%. But that 40% is the issue. The other 10% to make the 100% is really issues in your life that are transitional. I mean, you're not going to be happy 100% all the time. It's always how you react, what your emotion is, what you can do to cross-check yourself. There are points in your thought processes that you can change. So we know for a fact that we have 60,000 thoughts a day. And we also know that tomorrow you will have 95% of the same thoughts that you had yesterday will be the same thoughts that you had today. Now, did you know that? Now, check out your thoughts. Think about it. You're going to have the same thoughts. There are things that we're always kind of thinking about. So if there are 95% of the thoughts that you had yesterday are the same today, then we're being robbed of happiness just based off the things that we're thinking.
All right. Well, I definitely want to dig into it, right? I want to talk a little bit about your journey into this space, though.
Oh, okay.
So even first and foremost, right, with the amount of time that we have, definitely want to understand, you were in, work in the corporate life.
I did.
doing the, 9 to 5, or as we know, corporates can be like, 60, 80 hours a week, just kind of like this life suck, especially as you're trying to propel yourself into the things everybody tells us that we're supposed to want. Right. And then you had a divine encounter, which inspired you to leave your corporate gig. And I love that, I don't know if this is on purpose in your webpage, but you were led to fulfill a capitalized mission. Love to hear more about that, and then just kind of how that integrates, and let's work our way up to some happiness pieces that we can share out.
So I was vice president of a major healthcare company, and really I enjoyed that position tremendously. I was very much of a yuppie. And so born and raised Arizona, got my BA in chemistry at ASU, went off to California, and got my doctorate and did my internships and clerkships UCLA. I mean, I was a yuppie all the way, enjoyed it all, took my boards, passed them, and went right into administrative work and stuff like that. So I thoroughly I still love pharmacy. It's my profession. For 36 years, but I was at the top of my career is how I really would say it. And yes, I did have a divine encounter. And it was an amazing experience. I mean, regardless of your religion, I can only enlighten it. To, something like St. Paul, like the scales fall off your eyes. It was like all of a sudden I had this illumination, enlightenment of body and mind and soul. And I was invited by God. And when you have a divine encounter, I can tell you, Brandon, there's no way you can fake this. I mean, it will last for you forever. You will never forget the moment and what happens to you. So that I was invited by God to leave my current position as I knew it, and then to help the Lord restore dignity, healing through his love. And now he didn't give me the tools how to do that, but medicine being my background, healthcare, that's why I chose the name Mission Mercy. And the only key was I was to go to them. They weren't to come to me. So I started a medical mobile clinic to go out to them. We started with like 6 volunteers, and took a while to get it. You have to do your research, geographical area, and people just don't buy into what you're doing. So it did take time, and you take baby steps. And so that's what happened. And I took the plunge and purchased an RV that was like $40,000 for $2,000. I only had $2,000 in my account. And then 2 weeks later, a benefactor came and paid it in full. And then we were able to, meaning the group that I got together, about a few of us, that we were able to refurbish the mobile RV to a mobile clinic. And that's how it started. And this was almost 27 years ago. Now we're a national nonprofit.
I think that's fantastic. Let's talk a little bit about we can talk a little bit about that experience that you had, but it's hard to translate, right? It's like you said, it's something you can't fake, right?
Well, you wouldn't leave your job for the amount of money I was getting to get nothing.
Well, and let's talk about that though too, right? So the whole and I'm not a biblical scholar, but there's the whole idea of sell everything, give it away, or let go of it, and move on to this next piece, right? Sounds kind of like that's what you did. You went all in. Who are you talking to about this vision, and what are people saying to you, and how do you kind of move past that?
Well, I talked to everybody about the vision, and then I had a few friends that I knew that incorporated the company and started in Arizona, actually in 91. And then I moved to the Pennsylvania, Maryland area in 93. And then 94 actually launched in the Maryland area. So that the whole mission statement, I'm not afraid to talk about God or the reality of that, and the idea of restoring dignity, healing through love is. And I never was financially compensated all these years. I worked part-time in different pharmacy jobs to support myself. But the idea is you need to give without seeking consolation in return. And the joy of that, whether it's a listening ear or a hug or a smile, it's amazing. So we just believe the mission of Mission Mercy believes that the moment you give is the moment you actually receive.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot in the giving, right? I took a course, I think it was the Indian School of Business, and one of the pieces that we had to do was, it wasn't just to kind of I don't know if you've ever done these kind of pay it forward things where like, hey, whoever's behind me, I want to buy them a cup of coffee, but I don't want to see it, don't tell them who it was, and you kind of sneak out of there, right? You don't want, you're like peekaboo, and and then instead of doing that, they said, stay there and witness it, right? Because it's that giving that gift and seeing the reception that to me is very rewarding. And I never really had that experience before outside, definitely in giving gifts and in giving, but like just the reward of giving something and seeing somebody truly appreciate it and enjoy it unexpectedly, right? That gift of giving.
Yeah.
And then, the other part too is giving without the expectation to get something back, knowing that whatever you're doing it from your heart and not with an expectation of a return. Is that
exactly
in line with where you're at?
Exactly. There are three levels of giving. One is you give because we have an obligation. There is something that needs to be done with our economy or our population or whatever. There's something like government. We have to do something about the issue. That's one level of giving. The second level of giving is you give and you volunteer, let's say, because it makes you feel good.
Sure.
You know? But then there's the third level, which is the level that I congratulate all of the volunteers at Mission Mercy or any other organization, is that you give without seeking compensation in return. Right. Because you are the fiber then. You are joining. You are you're part of a family. You don't do something to feel good or get paid. You do something not out of obligation, but you do something because you're that family. You have a big heart. And you want to give people hope, and you want to extend the love to make them feel valued. So whether you see one person in a day or 100 people or more than that in a day, you treat each of those people as if they're the most important person. Each person as if they're the most important person that comes to you that day. They need to be valued and they need to feel loved. They'll know if you're authentic or not.
Right. No, you can't fake it. And you'll know, right? You'll feel it in yourself if you're faking it. It's kind of like a faded copy of the real thing. So one of my questions though is, as you're heeding this calling, was there any fear involved of what people might think of what you're doing, of some of those conversations? Again, you said you're top of your career and you said, you know what? I got this other thing I got to do, delivered by God. It's in my heart. I know it's the right thing to do. What's the response from people who are close to
you? Pretty amazing. You become a loner. And there are a few that will stay by you. Maybe your family won't even stay by you. You have to have a conviction that's stronger than that and a trust in God that what was told will unfold. and you have to have that belief and faith and trust. So we all have that power. We're all empowered with self-reliance in God. So it was iffy. I remember people leaving some money on my screen to pay my electricity bill. So it got to a point where it was a little, it just doesn't happen right away. I mean, you have to work through the process. But it did turn around, and things started slowly in a positive direction.
Right. And I just want people to hear that, right? I mean, because we still have, I think, this tribal instinct to not get thrown out of the tribe, right? If I get thrown out of the tribe, I'm on my own. The bears and the lions are going to eat me, and I'm not going to be able to do it. So I better stick with these guys, even though I've got this thing on my heart. And what you're talking about is, kind of leaning into it. Like you said, trust that process, follow what you believe to be true, and nobody else needs to believe what's on your heart except for yourself. Is that fair to say?
Yes, and if it's of God, it will happen. If it isn't, then it won't.
How
do you know? You just have to walk the process. You have to, there's certain things. As a healthcare provider, I knew what needed to be done as a healthcare provider. If you're starting a medical mobile clinic, you know the things that need to be done. You know that there's research geographically. You need to know where the need is. You need to know if there's a need, where you have to learn about benefactors. You have to do your homework, investigation. And if you're starting a nonprofit, and I was in Arizona at that time, let me tell you, Arizona is full of nonprofits. It's a competition area. You got the Heart Association, you've got the kidney, everyone is competitive, and they are big time donors. So if you're trying to start a nonprofit, people just, companies just don't give to a nonprofit unless you can show or prove that you have a track record. Okay, so you have to build up your clientele, or you have to find the right benefactor who believes so much in your passion that they give because of what you believe, and they buy into what you love. And then that's what happened with me. And my first $100,000 came from a benefactor in Arizona.
Yeah, I think that it makes sense, right? If you're talking from the heart, and this is something that you believe, you've done your work, you're gonna, I hate to say providence, right? Especially in the work that you're doing, but kind of understand that that's possible. And even to your point, where there's going to be there's the possibility where somebody's leaving money on your screen for the electricity. What are you thinking in that? When that's happening, are you thinking, oh man, I'm going to have to get back into work, I'm going to have to do this thing, I can't keep going on? Or are you still open to faith and belief in that time? Just talk to me a little bit about getting through those times.
It's humiliating. You're making six figures and then you drop down to nothing. Of course, you have some money, of course, saved or whatever to live off of. But the fact is, if your life is totally changing and you're not networking within that type of business, and you're trying to launch something else, you've got homework to do, and you've got to self-check yourself. So a lot of people who believe if you have a divine encounter that you've got it made, then everything is going to be flower, just perfect for you. That's not true. That's not true. God might give you a divine mission or even a message, but that doesn't mean that you're going to have your whole outlook in your private life all explained and outlined for you. Okay. So if anything, you have to be strong enough, pray. As for me, I'm Catholic, so sacraments are important. Going to Mass every day, praying the rosary. Those things are very critical. And then you have to be the light for others. Even if you don't feel like being the light for, even if you don't feel good, there are people out there that don't feel good either, but maybe it's your light that makes somebody else feel better. Everyone wants to be loved. Okay. And I'll tell you, my family didn't really jump on board. It took more than a couple of years, a few years, several years to finally jump on board. So, all right. So is it a walk you walk alone? Well, if you believe that you live your life alone and you don't believe God's with you, walking that life with you, then, I would regroup with yourself and know that you're never alone. You're never alone.
Yeah, that's a big message from Spiritual Dope podcast, right? The big message is, what you're talking about is it's available to everybody, right? It's boils down to a choice and a decision whether or not to accept that into your life, and then once you do, you find exactly what you said. You're not alone. Yeah, you've been trying to do it alone your entire life, but then it boils down to a point of like, all right, well, apparently there's something out there that can help me, right? And leaning into accepting that divine grace and accepting divinity and accepting that to try to go at it alone, even in any way, shape, or form, it's almost foolishness, right? To kind of think about it that way. So I appreciate you sharing, kind of what that walk is like, right? Because I think that it's very important. I think that it's important to heed your calling, right? What is your calling? To lean into it and to know that while there may be some areas of challenge that sounds like, you're living the life that you feel is driven by purpose and you're doing it with intent, with love and kindness and caring. And while you may have enjoyed your job as a VP, would you say that this is more fulfilling for you?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, sure.
You can't even, there's no measurement. It's timeless. The fulfillment is beyond. It's just, now it's been so many years. It's just, it doesn't matter what work I do. My outlook is always to serve the most vulnerable, or to help the underserved population, or to help anybody who is hurting and just needs to be refocused. Yeah, if you're Christian anyway, if you're Christian and you don't believe that Christ died for you, and then you're saying you're alone, or you're, then that's almost blasphemous. I mean, why would he? What's the purpose of being Christian if you don't believe in resurrection in our life, and there's a real God. It's tangible.
For sure.
So
right.
People think that if you don't see it, then it's not true. But now there's a lot of things you see and you think it's true, and it ain't true.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think too, we see less than 1% of the visible frequency. We hear less than 1% of, the, sound waves out there. I wouldn't be super surprised if, we're walking through, we'll call it like bodiless souls or something, right? Like, something like that. So just because we can't see it doesn't mean that it's not there. Just because we can't hear it doesn't mean that something's not talking to us. So I get it.
Especially for other people's purposes. I mean, the Lord says, where your heart is, there too is your treasure. So if you have that flame in your heart going, keep it tight so nothing blows out that flame.
Right. Yeah. No, I love it. Well, I wanna jump forward a little bit into your happiness work, your happiness coaching. So you're doing this. You got your hands full with running this program, running Mom. Now, what makes you decide to now pick up and lean into happiness coaching?
Well, actually, when I was on Mission Mercy, I witnessed a lot of people who are very happy coming on board and being treated, getting free prescriptions, free healthcare, free ancillary services, etc., free dental care. But that was a happiness that was a relief for them. But interiorly more indebted within them was something still lacking. And so I wanted them to know, how valued they really are and how whole you can be and how you look at a circumstance. There is a happiness continuum. And so we can control our thoughts. We can either be Teflon or Velcro. We have a way we know our thoughts and our outcomes and how we interact, how we treat ourselves, how we can temper our thoughts and our emotions can really make a difference today. And so I wanted to take it the extra step. And in that is the spiritual component. So some people that I do happiness coaching with has the spiritual component. They want that spiritual component. And then there's this more secular, just wanting to know the principles of the fast track to happiness or 7 level piers, like a house. There's 7 cores to it. But the most 2 important one is, the foundation, being held accountable, understanding what's happening. Where is your mind? Where is your thoughts? And then after you can grasp that, you can move on to the heart, to the soul, to relationships. There's a roof. It's like a house. So each one is different. You can't do every one in an hour. You'd have to take the full class.
No, for sure. So, I mean, you've got, let's touch on the 7 pillars, right, that you've got there. You touched on them a little bit, but let's just kind of talk through them. And maybe let's talk a little bit about how people are able to find pockets of happiness amidst the storm that we are talking about.
Okay. So, one is, so the whole purpose of what something like this would be is you want to learn some practical tools that you can use, that you can every day immediately try and raise your happiness level. Okay. So you want to try and understand what that key is to create a foundation of happiness. The idea of the happiness that I try and teach is happiness from the inside out. Happiness is a state of being. It's not something that happens that causes you happiness. The true happiness that I try and teach is happiness is a state of being regardless of the circumstances that happen within your life. Now, again, Brandon, it's not like I would tell you that whatever, you might have a bad day. Okay, so does that mean that, you're going to, just be so chipper? No, I mean, there's a way to look at things. There is a connection that you can click on. In this happiness forum, there is feelings of contraction. Are you feeling resistance or fear, or are you malaise? There's a feeling of separation. That's something contraction. You're not feeling good. Or are you being expanded? Expansion is a big thing. Are you optimistic? Are you, feeling flow, well-being, ease, creativity? You're feeling good. So those are your tools of magnets, one way or the other, that you can figure out if you're on the right course. So always, no matter what your sentiment is, double check your thoughts, feelings by expansion or contraction. Okay, so because your brain has neural pathways, and those neural habits are things that will give you different emotions. It's like addictions, that's why they say, well, have a problem, then you're going to go to whatever rehab or wherever it is. That 30-day process, they say it takes 20 to 30 days, is because you have these neural pathways in your brain, chemicals. And so once you start thinking a one way, then that becomes a habit. And then you start thinking that way and thinking that way and thinking, and it becomes a natural habit where it's always a negative. And that happens a lot with substance abuse. It's a natural response because that's all they've been trained to do. And so you have to get out of that. You have to train your brain to think differently, different neural pathways, different cellular membranes, that memory pathways that will help train you to think opposite and positive. And until that becomes the ordinary way of your thinking. So it takes about 20, 30 days. It doesn't happen overnight. So some people use a rubber band that when they think a negative thought, you say, hey, stop. And then you just distract yourself or think of something. So it's uncomfortable a little bit in the beginning until you get your role format of what it is. Some people I tell, go look at yourself in the mirror and every day for 20 days for 1 minute or 2 minutes. I want you to say how I'm beautiful, I'm intelligent, I'm handsome, I'm creative, I help people, whatever. Yeah. I love my mom, I love my dad, I love, little kids have no problem doing that, and they'll even clap their hands and do a dance as they're doing it. Yeah. So we have to learn to love ourselves and be comfortable with ourselves, even when we don't feel good about ourselves. We can understand that there is a challenge or something happening out there. Well, it doesn't mean we can't change it, but we can certainly change our attitude about it. So the pillars are, like I said, I call it the home of happiness, okay? So the top is your life purposes, is the roof. Do you want me to continue? Did you want to say something?
Looking for the mute button. I'll tell you what. Let's walk through, right? Let's walk through it because I want to make sure that we talk about the pillars. I definitely got thoughts and things we could talk about, but I also want to make sure that we leave time to walk through these pillars, and maybe we'll talk a little bit about those.
Okay, I don't want to go through every single one of them because it'll take too long.
Yeah, no, it's just hit them on a high level, Jana.
Okay. So are we on mute? Are we still?
We're on the go.
Okay. You amaze me how you do it. Okay, so we got the life purpose. We got a roof over our heads. We don't want a leaky roof. In a hurricane situation, thank God we have a roof over our head, right? So we have a roof. We look at that. Then we have our mind. They're pillars. Our thoughts, our heart. Our heart is the key to the soul. And where, like I said, where your treasure is, there too is your, okay. And then the body, of course, that is, if your body is in alignment, quantum light even, a lot of people do yoga and stretch, but the body is important to balance. So, and then there's the soul, and the soul is your deep intimacy with God. And different relations, different religions. So it is your overall essence of who you are and your soul being free, because it's captive within your body. So that soul lives forever, and you make a choice of where your soul goes. So then there's, let's see, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, then there's the responsibility that we call the foundation to the house. So that means being held accountable for some of the things that you do or not do, okay? So you want to be held accountable for things that you have done, and we look at that. And then there's, the last is the garden of the house. The garden is your relationships, and how you choose them, and whether you desire or not. It's important to choose what is purposeful for not only you, but for the other party. Pretty much that's it in a nutshell. So the idea is that we try and teach to do what you love and love what you do. And
sure. I mean, I think one of these pieces that I know that I've personally struggled with in the past, still every once in a while struggle with, is is that roof, right? Like you've done, you found your passion, and you're following your inspiration, and you're serving others. What are some ways that you teach people to find their purpose?
Well, everyone has a dream, and there's a way to live your dream, and you have to embrace your desires, and based off your dreams and desires, you try and seek to fulfill them, and find out what that channel is to do it. And remember, you have to use that continuum happiness chart thing that I said, the expansion, contraction. If you're really unhappy, if you're doing something that you're expanding and embracing and wanting to do, you'll be pretty low spirited, If you're happy, well, let's put it this way, you could be happy for bad reason. And that happiness is if you're using unhealthy things to just make you an antidote to make you kind of feel externally happy. But then there is the other happiness, which is you have a happy for a good reason. And that's really the satisfaction of what you're doing. You're healthy. You have healthy expectations. And that then starts moving over to the real end, which my desire for people is to have happiness with no reason at all, regardless of whatever is, you have an interior peace. And even if there is a storm, it will balance back because the practices to put in place to maintain that equanimity. Right.
A lot of syllables in that one. I always trip over it. No worries. I think that's great. I think that trying to understand what your purpose is and using that contraction, expansion feeling to kind of be your guiding principle is what I'm hearing you say, right? And like, do I feel like I'm expanding and opening, maybe my heart, right, to what it is that I'm doing, my feeling, in touch with God, source, the universe, with this work that I'm doing, or is what I'm doing kind of eating me alive, right? Contraction and just kind of making me shrink and not live to the fullest of who I am. And when I read a little bit on the pillar of the body, you talk about making yourselves happy, nourish your body, energize your body, tune into your body's wisdom. But I'm just curious if you're also talking about the idea of getting these expansive thoughts in our neural pathways and our body being the alchemical, producer that it is, right? And when we have these good or more positive thoughts, we're creating positive nutrients for ourselves, that our cells become addicted to those positive cells, just in the same way they would become addicted to the negative energy, right?
Exactly.
But just different chemicals. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. And the body component will, if you're healthy, will feed into that. The cellular neural pathways that we were talking about is really the mind aspect that goes into behavior. And attitude is always a big thing to happiness. So if you have a good attitude, it's expected that if you have a good attitude, happiness will come. But beyond that, the behavior in the neural pathways, the cellular negative responses that happen, and how you can create new neural pathways. That is it might be a conscious effort in the beginning, but then later on, it will just become a normal response. It's a cellular memory that happens, and then it just unconsciously clicks in. So it kind of combines with the brain as always being the big thing, because you're always thinking negative thoughts from the day before. Once you can cap that, that's why we start with the foundation of what's happened to you, and then your mind, what's going on there. Then as it goes to your heart and it blossoms, you find out how much empowerment that you have and your love that can turn something positive or something hatred, almost satanic. It's amazing. From water, I teach about water theory from a major scientist.
Emoto Imushi. Yeah.
That he's done the water experiences of ice and stuff that kids will just with their heart think good things, then you get this beautiful image, and negative is almost like disgusting.
Yeah.
And then, but then you get to the body. So by the time you get to the body, you're already practicing. You got your mind and you got your heart. So it's already like the infusion of a fiber that just kind of flows. Because everyone knows if you exercise or stretch or whatever, even walk or anything like that, will kind of upbeat your, circulation and kind of gets you going, makes you feel a little high. So then that's how then to the soul is then. It's just a combination of absorption of God's love, and you're able to receive abundantly.
Yeah, no, I'm in, right? Definitely in. I love it. I definitely, I think that the work that you're doing, both with, mom and with your happiness work, you've got a great passion for it. It comes through. I'm enjoying the conversation for sure. Unfortunately, we have to kind of dial it down and work our way out. So to that end, Jana, what I usually like to do is get around to the whole idea that this is kind of like a spiritual speed dating show, right? And that somebody's going to tune in and be like, should I work with Jana? And, the way you answer one or two of these questions, spiritual bachelorette number one, it could be, this could put it all on the line. So let's just, I'm going to pick a random one. And I think this is a good one. I don't ask too many people who define themselves as Christians this question, so I think it's a good one. Is current religion serving its purpose?
No.
Feel free to expand.
Well, I think with the COVID and what's happened, I think a lot of I'm really disappointed in how a lot of the pastors and religious people have downsized it and were afraid. Even missionaries, no one wanted to touch someone. Everyone was afraid to be with one. If God exists and is with you, then where is your faith and trust? So I think things could have been worked a little better. I think the element of fear in media has caused a tremendous impact, and I'm disappointed on that. So that would be my answer. I don't think it could serve better. I hope it does get better.
No, fair enough. Would you say that there's a kind of an erosion of faith then in this crisis where, if you are truly of faith, then you act that way? I guess it's
again, it's fear. And why does that fear come in there? Why did you? Okay, so something happens and media says you got this. This is like plague or whatever. And then, let's everyone freak out, get the vaccination without doing any research, no FDA approved, nothing to understand what it is. And now we just found out even in Maryland, 40% of the people just recently have died of COVID from being fully vaccinated. Okay. So because the free cells, the T cells that are free are bound. And so they can't fight your they can't fight the
infection.
Yeah. But anyway, so it's fear. Now, think about it. If you're rational and you're going to do some, stop. Just look at it, okay? Just, take precautions and just, all right, let's look at it and research it, find out information, learn about the pharmaceutical. So that caused a lot of problems from fear for religion. Unbelievable. It was just amazing. And I personally, I'm disappointed on that.
Okay. No, fair enough. That did not go the way that I thought that it may. And that's great, right? I mean, that's part of the reason for these conversations. Let's see. Let's go with, what is it that prevents people from living to their full potential?
Lack of self-love, lack of trust and confidence. You have to be confident not only in yourself. People see if people want what you have if you're the light of God. So part of that's confidence. You may not have all the answers, but you are a spiritual person of prayer and love.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess accepting that, that you're a child of God, is that one way that you can begin to live to the fullest of your potential, would you say?
Absolutely. I mean, self-love, you have to be kind to yourself. How many people are not kind to themselves? They're overworked, they're underpaid, or now they have to resign. Now they're pressured. I mean, where does it end to? That's why I think the storm's coming is, like you said, there are people who are ready to revolt. There are people that know something's not right here. And there are people who will stand for that truth. Right.
No, it's true. All that being said, we do know that we can find pockets of happiness. We do know that there's somebody that they can reach out to try to understand what is it, so maybe you feel like you're down and you're out. Maybe you feel like you're in such and such a situation. I guess a good question, Jana, it was like, who would you say right now is your ideal client for this happiness coaching space?
Anyone who has a question, anyone that desire openness to really be fulfilled in life. It's a freedom. It's a freedom of peace. It's amazing. And that's not to say negative things would happen, but it's how you react to them. It's how you think the process. It's how you work the process. And ultimately, it's you. It's all about you. Okay, it's not about me. I'm happy.
No, I think to your point, right? It's you've been given all the tools, but you may not know how to use them.
That's exact. We all have those gifts. Who doesn't have a gift? You have a gift, Brandon, that I would like to have, and maybe I have a gift that you want to have. The puzzle needs everybody to complete it.
Right. No, I agree. Gianna, this has been a lot of fun. Really appreciate our ability to connect here today. Where can I send people to find out more about you and the work that you're doing today?
You can go to fasttracktohappiness.com. And that's one way. Or there's another website, the spiritual component that some people want is ourladyofemmitsburg.com is another way. They're both linked together under Fast Track to Happiness. Some people want more spiritual. Some people want like the tools. So either one.
Sure. No, I get it. Well, fantastic. I think that the work that you're doing is amazing, and keep it up. You're, I think, an inspiration to a lot of people.
So are you, Brandon. Thank you for the time, and thanks for all your listeners. Thrilled.
Absolutely.
Really,
Absolutely.
A pleasure and an honor. Thanks.
Really hope you enjoyed this episode of the Spiritual Dope Podcast. Stay connected with us directly through spiritualdope.co. You can also join the discussion on Facebook, Spiritual Dope, and Instagram at spiritual_dope. If you would like to speak with us, send us an email through brandon@spiritualdope.co. And as always, thank you for cultivating your mindset and creating a better reality. This concludes the most thought-provoking part of your day. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay fully up to date. Until next time, be kind to yourself and trust your intuition.